Chapter 102 Departure. In the dark night, paper effigies floated in the air, stirring up waves of cold wind. The whole scene was extremely strange and made one's scalp tingle. Song-Chi stood on the roof and realized that the paper effigies were all converging in one direction, as if someone was secretly commanding them. His paper clothes looked like a giant amongst the others as he chased it down. In a flash, Song-Chi chased after it and caught it. He said gloomily, "Why are you running away? Don't you know who you belong to?" His clothes moved, but he didn't know if it was because they understood what he meant that they suddenly quieted down and stopped moving. Did I manage to convince them? Song-Chi felt that this thing was really strange. He wanted to burn it, but when he thought about how it was left behind by Huan Hei, he felt a little reluctant. "Young master, why are you still reluctant to part with this piece of paper?" Liu Ruxu came out after putting on her clothes. She was a little jealous because, when she was showering, she found out that the person who gave Song-Chi the paper clothes was a demoness. This thing should be a treasure. Maybe it can be sold for money. I can't let them take it away. Song-Chi said righteously. "I think she's just using this to spy on you." Liu Ruxu rolled her eyes at Song-Chi and looked at the increasing number of paper effigies around her. Her expression changed. There are so many paper effigies. What happened? Didn't know, incurious, where these paper effigies came from. Song-Chi's body swayed, and an afterimage flew outside before returning. A paper effigy appeared in his hand. It was only the size of a palm, but it was making creaking sounds and struggling in his hands. It's like they're investigating the situation. Liu Ruxu's beautiful eyes landed on the paper effigy. It had a vivid expression with a nose and a mouth and looked antique. She commented, "It don't seem to have much combat strength. Other than coming out to investigate the situation and scaring ordinary people, it should be useless." Song-Chi turned the paper effigy over. The paper effigy was exquisitely drawn. The lines on it formed a strange pattern. It was this pattern that gave the paper effigy life. "Stop looking, there are definitely great cultivators nearby. Moreover, they're related to the evil path and the demonic sect. They're probably temperamental. Let's retreat quickly, we don't want to be captured by them and be turned into paper effigies later." A middle-aged woman with white hair suddenly appeared and looked into the night sky with a solemn expression. She was wearing a long gray robe and was very good-looking. Her temples were slightly white, so she should be a little older than them. "Elder Yuan." Liu Ruxu hurriedly turned around and bowed. "I originally wanted to stay for another 2 days before we set off. But from the looks of it, this city is probably in a little bit of trouble right now. Let's leave tonight." Elder Yuan looked in the direction of the paper effigies with fear. "Let's go in the opposite direction." "So urgent?" Liu Ruxu was surprised. "Once a war breaks out in Silken City, it will be very difficult for us to leave, especially if the Imperial Court conscripts us. It won't be easy to refuse them." Elder Yuan had foresight. She would rather deal with a little trouble than be involved in a war. "I'll listen to you, Elder. However, can we bring my Dao companion to the Yaomun Palace?" Liu Ruxu had no objections and only asked about Song-Chi. "You can bring him along, but it's more troublesome for him to enter the inner sect because you're not an official inner sect disciple yet. Moreover, has not a disciple of the Yaomun Palace, so you can only bring him along as a furnace." Elder Yuan glanced at Song-Chi. Although she was shocked by Song-Chi's strength, she did not show it. "That's enough. There's also Mei Niang. I need her to help me deal with the miscellaneous matters. This is in line with the rules." Elder Yuan nodded. Song-Chi said, "I'm going to bring my guard along. Is that okay?" It just said that no matter who you bring, if you don't have enough status, you can only stay in the outer sect. Elder Yuan looked at Song-Chi. "You're very talented. You can consider joining the Yaomun Palace when you get there." After saying that, she took out a rolled-up item from her bosom and casually threw it away. A large blue blanket appeared, big enough to seat several people. "Hurry up and prepare. We'll set off in half an hour," Elder Yuan urged. Song-Chi knew that Elder Yuan probably knew something, but did not say it. He patted Liu Ruxu's shoulder. "Go and prepare. Since I'm alone now, I have nothing to do. Just let Big Smart come over." "Okay." "Wait a moment." Liu Ruxu jumped back into the house and went to work. In the night sky, the paper effigies had already disappeared and a cold wind blew in their place. Only the two of them were left. Elder Yuan was the first to speak. Your name is Song Shi, right? You're more outstanding than what Zur had mentioned. Otherwise, how would I be worthy of Zur? Song Shi was not humble. From now on, his identity has changed. He had to be confident when he needed to be. He did not want to be looked down upon. Your personality is rather outgoing. This probably has something to do with your background. It's very normal, however, when you go to the Yao Moon Palace in the future. You have to be careful to not act rashly. Elder Yuan said meaningfully. After all, there are many women in the palace, and the men there are not simple either. There are still many cases of jealousy that will happen. Every time I hear you talk about the palace, it feels like it's an imperial palace. Song Shi smiled and looked at the dark night sky. Suddenly, he changed the topic. Elder Yuan, why are you in such a hurry to leave? The battle between the demonic sects and Great Qin shouldn't affect us, right? You should have seen the battle between powerhouses, right? Elder Yuan did not answer. Instead, she asked him a question. I've seen it before. It caused a huge commotion, like an avalanche which broke the ground. That's only because they attacked outside. If they attack this city, do you think you'll be affected? Song Shi's pupils constricted. He lowered his head and looked at the paper effigy that was still struggling. Aren't they already fighting with the elites of Great Qin outside? Do they still have the strength to come in here? A few days ago, nobody would have thought that the demon cult would have the strength to destroy hundreds of thousands of troops. Elder Yuan's expression was mocking. You understand, Song Shi could tell that this elder wanted to stay out of this. This was indeed a wise choice. Actually, this is nothing. The key is that if they start a war in this city, it's very easy to force you to choose one side. At that time, you won't have a choice to be impartial. Elder Yuan said meaningfully. At this time, the best choice is to stay out of it and wait for the situation to clear up before thinking about doing anything. Young master, at this moment, Big Smart ran over eagerly. After knowing that Song Shi had returned, he had been waiting. Just now when Liu Ruxu summoned him, he immediately came over. Yes, wait at the side. We have to leave Silken City. Song Shi nodded. Big Smart did not abandon him. As such, he is prepared to treat him as a confidant and wanted to nurture him well to let him live up to his own ambitions. Liu Ruxu went back to pack her things and brought Mei Niang out. Elder Yuan made a hand seal and the blanket brought everyone out of the city. The blanket Dharma artifact was not very fast, but it was soft and stable. It was very comfortable to ride on. Song Shi looked at the many houses below and sighed inwardly. I didn't expect to leave my hometown, which I've lived in for so many years, so soon. Elder Yuan, where is the Yao Moon Palace? Is it very far away? Song Shi asked curiously. My Yao Moon Palace is one of the largest sacks within the radius of 5,000 kilometers. Sky Moon Mountain, which is 1,800 kilometers northwest, is where our sect is located. With this speed, it will take me 2 days to ride even if we travel at full speed. Just as Elder Yuan said that, her expression suddenly changed. She hurriedly stopped and looked into the distance nervously. Song Shi also sensed danger approaching and looked over almost at the same time. I didn't expect to meet Fairy Ziyu's attendant, Elder Yuan, here. How has Fairy Ziyu been recently? In the darkness, a young man holding a 3-colored feather fan walked over with a smile.